This is the lens right here, and it is a full frame lens, so you are expecting it to be just that little bit bigger than you would have really expected for an APS-C kind of centered lens. It does extend quite a bit. One thing I did notice when turning it on is the autofocus, when it's on continuous, kind of has just a lot of erratic movements here and there. As you can see, it's just doing it by itself. That's just because it's focusing, and it's really designed as a beginner telephoto lens for both sports and wildlife. So let's go capture some wildlife now and see what images we can get out of this lens. I mean, this is a Canon optic, so one of the first lenses I bought when it came to actually getting one of these cameras was a 70-300, but that was a Tamron and a Sigma. So it's going to be interesting to see the quality, and also for a first kind of real budget lens from Canon there, because Canon do tend to have fairly expensive lenses when it comes to the mirrorless solution, and this one is actually super affordable. So it works both with people who've got like a beginning kind of setup with an APS-C camera, or people who have got themselves an R8, so full frame, and just want to have something with just a little bit more distance but don't want to spend too much money. I think it fits into those like ballparks really quite well, and best thing really to do now is put it through its paces. So let's go down both parts. Tyler, did you ever have a 70-300?
Yeah.
I feel like everyone starts there somewhere.
Yeah, so my first ever camera was a Canon 550D. It was 2008, 2009, and I bought it with an 1855. And then I bought a 50mm 1.8, and then the next time after that was a old EOS 70-300, I think it was, and that was like £18 second hand.
Oh, mad!
Love that. It just opened up all this new focal length that I'd never experienced before, and it didn't cost me very much. I started playing around with like wildlife and long shots, and I even used them at weddings because I couldn't afford a 70-200. So. Yeah, it's a great buy. If you're buying it for the first time, it's an experience. If you've owned one before and you're just looking to have one that fits on your new camera, like your R50, your R100, your R8, your R10, whatever, then it's great for that. But also if you're using an R6 Mark II, R5 Mark II, you don't want to spend like £1,500 on a new lens. Buy the cheap one. It's good quality, does the job, you know?
Perfect, sorted. Gonna grab a shot of this tower right here. With the 75-300, which it kind of works out to be a 105, 110 to 450. So let's just bring up the camera now and take the photo. So who do you reckon is going to get better photos today? Me with my 75-300, or you with your sleeping? Well, it's not going to take good shots if it's sleeping, is it?
I'll wake up.
Wake up in a minute.
The only time I get some peace.
Yeah, you never get peace, shut up. When it comes to the 75-300, it's not too much money. It's very much designed with beginners in mind, especially at the price point being £289. It does seem to be very reactive to taking photos and shooting at higher frames per second, and in that retrospect, I'm actually reasonably impressed with it. It is a lot of fun. I'm doing most of the shooting today with the Osmo Pocket 3 as a sort of just like general B-roll camera, and hopefully going to be able to get some good shots today. Got a moorhen over here, just cleaning its stuff up. Some ducks, got some ducks. Alright, let's talk a little bit about your general buying options when it comes to lenses in general, especially for Canon. For the most part, a lot of them are really expensive, but with this I feel like it's a really good investment, because of course this is an RF lens, which does mean you can actually shoot this still on a full frame camera after the fact. So if you're looking to invest into photography, it's a great start for you, and it's something that you can use to expand your gear and actually know that it's going to be usable again in the future when you decide to upgrade. A lot of the RFS lenses, they're great, but they can only be used on APS-C cameras, not full frame. This can still be used on full frame. So in terms of general investment into a decent lens for you to be able to take wildlife sports photography, this is always going to be an invaluable part of your gear. Yes, it would be great to have it with stabilization, but the autofocus works pretty well. It's not designed to be the highest quality lens around. It's designed for you to be able to take great photos at a really decent price point. And In terms of an investment, it doesn't take too much to really decide that this lens is actually pretty good bang for buck, and that's really what it does come down to at the end of the day, is what is it really going to cost you at the end of it. Well, match up with a decent camera, you know, it's going to be pretty good. What's great about using this lens with an RFS camera in particular is, of course, you've got a little bit more range than you would otherwise usually get with a full frame counterpart. So this is then a 450mm, giving you a lot of range and a lot of capabilities there to get some incredible and hopefully smashing looking shots. Again, behind me at the moment we've got some little goslings over this side, and just took some photos there. I'm going to grab a shot of it now. So if we do. So although this is really a lens for people who are starting out with an APS-C camera, I have, like I said, bought an R8 now. I'm going to switch over that and take some photos with that to show you what you would get on a full frame camera. Again, it's nice to have this lens be this price, but also be a full frame. Amazing. So I've now swapped it over to the Canon R8, which is a little bit nicer for me because it's a little bit bigger for my hands. Again, this is a full frame lens, so let's go take some photos. So when shooting with a full frame, you haven't got the same reach, however you got a little bit better depth, and well, you're actually shooting what the lens is designed to shoot at.
Fucking hell, Stu, this lens is amazing.
Oh, what this lens?
Well, I was thinking more this lens, but...
Right,
yeah, sure.
It's not a measuring contest.
Bigger is better.
So you're looking at the kind of like telephoto lens for the first time, and the main thing you really need to understand is what it's really good for. They are great for sports, great for wildlife, and even to a certain extent, great for portraits, especially for first time shooters. Because of the compression, you actually get a really nice low depth of field, even though that the aperture on the lens is just a f4-5.6. So you actually get a really nice image, surprisingly, out of a lens just like this, for portraiture as well. So as Tyler mentioned earlier, he even used it for professional work, even though he didn't have a 70-200 at the time. And it's actually an incredibly usable lens for many different situations. Oh, I got a little baby. Little baby. Yeah. Oh, I got a little baby. Gotta love some goslings. Huh? Well, it's because you're attractive, Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. If I was a goose, I wouldn't follow you if that would help. So we just got back to the store now, and I've just gone through the photos, picked out the ones that I actually really quite like, and we're just going to go over them a little bit more. Overall, I would say the lens, for the price point in which it lies, produces some pretty decent images, a reasonable sharpness. There is not a perfect lens by any stretch of the imagination, but overall I would say it performed really quite well, and in some ways I was actually quite surprised. So let's start with this image right here. It's just off a pigeon. We shot this at ISO 400 at 300mm f5.1 at 160th of a second. This is where I actually started shooting with the R8, and just to show you kind of the quality of photo you kind of get out of it. The image, I believe, has been rendered pretty damn well. In zooming in, it is quite sharp. However, when it comes to the photos that and continuing to look into some of the photos that we actually took whilst we were at Roth Park, what became apparent is that there is a slight problem with Loca or Maui at the wide end of the lens. Again, at the price point in which it is, this isn't necessarily surprising because it's not the highest quality lens, but it is decent enough quality for you to be able to get photos that you're generally quite happy with. And this is what I would say here. Despite having the Maui in the image, I would say a lot of the photos that I actually took on the day came out pretty well. It's very obvious on this goose right here. As you can see, there is like an almost glow about it with blue kind of like halation. But zooming out, you wouldn't necessarily be able to see that that is there in the image. And if you're looking to just take photos simply of wildlife, I think the lens works out really quite well. During the shoot, Tyler mentioned that when he originally started out, he used the 75-300 as a general zoom lens for professional work as well. And you can really do that. I mean, you'd hopefully eventually move up to something like a 70-200. However, how the lens actually creates the image, I would say it renders it really quite nice, despite having that Maori in there. This doesn't necessarily need to just be used for wildlife and sports. It could also be used for portraiture. When it comes to telephoto lenses, because you have that background compression, you don't necessarily need the lowest f-stop in order to be able to get that nice low depth of field shot. And because of the compression on the actual lens, in some cases, the facial kind of structure looks a little bit more pleasing, at least to the eye. And as you can see here, this is a photo of Tyler whilst he was shooting, and it actually performed really quite well. And I would say this, combined with the R50, managed to get some photos that I was generally quite happy with, at least with a model at this kind of end of the field. The only thing I would say is in this particular shot, if you have a look at the whiter colors, you can really see the Maori start to affect the image. So that's something that I would say maybe look to not necessarily take photographs of and step away from. It's sort of your really white colors, but overall the image performed pretty quite well. So the kind of range you're looking at, this is a photo that I took of a clock tower near Cardiff City Hall, and if we zoom in, it generally performed really well. This was at f6.3, and this is at 95mm at 4,000th of a second. And this is on the wider end, of course, of what we're shooting with. Zooming in slightly more, so this is at the 300mm end, and yes, you still get a little bit of Maori in there, but still a relatively decent and sharp image. Going over to Roath Park now, doing a similar sort of test, just zooming in closer and closer. As you can see, kind of works pretty damn well. If we go into the edge, although this is a white structure, the Maori is not as kind of evident in this particular shot. So it's kind of mixed results. And this was shot at f6.3, 4,000ths of a second at ISO 1250. And even with a little bit of grain in there, I think it performed really quite well. Something that did happen whilst we were shooting is, for the first time I actually managed to see a heron out in the wild, well, quote unquote wild. And it was really quite nice. When I first took a photo of the heron, I was actually shooting with the R8, and I actually purposely then switched back, and that's the photo here with the R8. And it got to this point where there was this really nice reflection. However, it was I wanted to go a little bit further, and this is the benefit of shooting this with an APS-C camera, is that you can actually get in a little bit closer, because you've got that extra 1.5 times crop, and by this time it actually walked a little bit further away from me. So I was shooting with the R50 here, and I was actually quite happy with all of these images, especially the reflection in the water and the way the neck of the heron kind of works in the image. I think it came out pretty well. Obviously there was a lot of high light conditions here today, so grabbing some goose and their gooselings. There was a lot of them, which was really quite cute. It was quite nice to be able to do with the highlight and dark situations. However, I believe the lenses really rendered this pretty well overall. And what I got to say is this, kind of concluding the video and talking about the lens, is this 75-300 has not got everything in it. It's not got image stabilization, it's not a metal construction, but what it is a really decent start off into shooting nature and wildlife photography. You're not expecting general perfection here, but what you're expecting to do is fall in love with a new kind of photography and give yourself ultimately more options. I talk about in the video it being a really good kind of investment in terms of gear overall, because with this being an RF lens, you can still use it with your full frame lenses. And although a lot of the photos I took today had issues with Maori and Loca, You can usually get rid of that by shooting at a slightly higher aperture. I was shooting at quite a fast shutter speed just in general, but it's not necessarily something that will always affect the image. Overall, this lens, I think, for the price point, and especially coming from Canon, I'm impressed by. It's not the perfect lens, but at this price point, I'm not expecting the perfect lens. And this is where you got to really manage your expectations. If you want higher quality images, you're going to have to get a higher quality lens. But when you're starting out, this lens is absolutely perfect. Thanks for getting the shot, Ty.
Oh, you're welcome. Don't worry. Hi, how are you? Good.
If you like the video,
yeah.
If you like the video, make sure you like, follow, subscribe if you want to see more. And, you know, I'm better than Tyler, so...
It's not true.